So thank you all for joining us today. It's now 4:10 in Guyana, 8:10 in Ghana, and 6:10 a.m. in Australia. For the participants who had to make an extra special time commitment to be here, we do appreciate your participation. Today's Self-Exchange Forum is titled Building the Capacity of Artisanal and Small-Scale Mining in Eliminating Mercury and Innovative Mercury-Free Techniques. We're happy to have a team from Women in Mining Ghana who have recently concluded a project in this area here with us to share their knowledge, their challenges, and their expertise in this area. With that being said, I will hand you over to Rosemary Okla as well as Hamdiya Orleans-Boham from Women in Mining Ghana.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi. Please, can you allow me
Rosemary.
to share my screen?
Hi.
You should be able to do so now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
It's good, Rosemary. Lovely.
good.
Looks good.
Good evening, good morning, and because of the time zone, my name is Rosemary, and I'm speaking on building the capacity of the ASM, or the artisanal small-scale mining. I'll do the introduction, and my other colleague, Hamdiya, would give us much detail into the mercury processing and mercury-free processing. The overview, this will be the outline of our presentation. Artisanal small-scale mining contributes to the social-economic development of Ghana in the mining sector, and also as foreign earning for Ghana. Women make up 50% of the workforce in the ASM sector. The involvement of women contributes to the development of sustainable and positive transformation of our communities, because women invest back into the society due to their motherly instincts. According to Minerals Commission, 43% of the ASM contributes to the total gold production in 2018 in Ghana. So from the graph, we realize that the orange or the red stands for the production of gold from the ASM sector. Some of the persistent challenges are lack of geological information, which causes the ASM sector or workers or miners to mine haphazardly because they don't have much geological information on the ground, and also lack of access to funds that encourage foreigners to come into the ASM sector. But in Ghana, the ASM sector is strictly for Ghanaians. Also, there is insufficient mineable land available to prospect for the ASM sector. So some of the ASM miners encroach the large-scale concession. It is perceived, which in reality, the applying for licensing for the small scale is a bit complex, which currently they are trying to make it more simple and simplify the licensing processes. Also, mining in unauthorized places. Some miners also mine in river bodies, forest areas, or forest reserves, and also existing concession for existing concession sites, like large-scale concession areas. There's also illegal concession, and landowners and leaders connive with foreigners to operate in remote areas. This is the general challenges. When it comes to the challenges for the women, we have access to funds to buy the ore or the gold, the ore-bearing rock and equipment. When it comes to technical knowledge, they lack the knowledge of environmental impact of the activities. They don't know much of their activity is impacting negatively on the environment. And they don't also know how to process the tailings they have and the impact mercury is having on them. Also, they are not able to identify viable ore-bearing rocks to buy. They buy the ore, the load. So they don't have an idea of whether this load that I'm buying, is it viable or not? They are being exploited by the buyers, those who buy the gold from them. And also there's a bit of lack of available gold buyers. They might have the gold, they'll process the gold, have it ready, but at the point in time they want to sell it, there wouldn't be any buyer. When it comes to working conditions, there's lack of childcare and sanitation facilities. So this is the general processes with the ASM sector. The men go in down the pit, underground. This is more of the hard rock, and we mine both the hard rock and alluvial, but I'll concentrate more on the hard rock. With the hard rock, the men go down to take the load and they transport it up, and the women buy the load. When they buy the load, they process it by crushing it in a mill, and then they go through the fluid and amalgamate it. But in this process, Hamdiya would take us through much detail of how the amalgamation is being done, and we get the sponge gold. They add mercury to the black sand to get the sponge gold. After they get the sponge gold, they melt it to get the ore. So, Dia, can you take us through to the mercury aspect of it? Thank you. Dia, you are muted.
I think you may have lost Dia because I don't see her here anymore. Since she's joining us from a mining community, her connection may be a bit challenging.
Okay. Since Amina is around, well, whilst we are waiting for Dia to connect, we'll let Amina take us through the process, the practical process of the extracting of the gold. And then Hamdiya would take us through practically through it. Amina, can you please take us through?
Hi, Rosemary. Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Amin.
thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can.
you.
Yes,
Oh, okay,
loud and
good.
clear, Amina.
Right. Okay. As Rosemary was saying about the processing, I think what they do with the amalgamation is that we are trying so hard to move out of the mercury amalgamation to mercury-free process these days. So I often don't want to be talking about the mercury anymore, but nonetheless, since we are talking about the mercury amalgamation, we still have to talk about it. Once they do the crushing and the mailing, and then they concentrate the ore, then they collect what is called the black, and that is when they add the mercury to it and do the processing, and then get the amalgam and then retort it. Some of these women do have the proper retort to recover the mercury, but most of them, about 80%, just burn out the mercury into the atmosphere, which is very dangerous for they themselves, and the general public as a whole. So I think the common practice right now is still burning out the mercury into the atmosphere. It's only a handful of us who are lucky enough to have the mercury retort that we can recover some of the mercury. And like Rosemary was explaining, it doesn't just stop the exploitation, doesn't stop there. Once they get their sponge gold, because they don't have facilities or the ways to smelt the gold into bars, their golds are being bought at a very cheaper rate within the community with the so-called gold buyers. So basically, they determine what price they pay these women to get the gold from them. And I think that is one aspect of these issues that we must look at as women in this industry. But I think our main focus right now is to move these women from using the mercury to mercury-free processing method these days.
Thank you so much for sharing, Amina. I know Hamdiya had joined us again. I'm just checking in. She is now rejoining. So as soon as she connects, we will hand over to her. Hamdiya, are you able to hear us?
I can see her on.
As can I.
I can see her, Hamdiya.
If there is anyone else joining from the same room that she is in, you may have to mute your speaker, else everyone will receive feedback.
Dear, can you hear us? Hello? In the meantime, yes, she's there. Okay. Dear, we can hear you. Please speak. Otherwise, Amina, you can speak to us about some of the UMAT interventions and also the new government interventions, the mercury-free interventions, whilst we wait for Dia.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think over the years, past few years, what Newmont has been trying to do is to train the small scale miners into becoming very responsible.
I think Dia is back now.
Okay, so then I'll let her.
Yes, but don't go.
Good evening.
Hi,
I'm really sorry. I'm having a tough time with my internet this evening. I don't know what's happening. So I will talk briefly on the safe amalgamation and the mercury-free processes that we are having. I'm a member of the Women in Mining Ghana. My name is Hamdiya Orleans-Boham. So in Ghana, when we talk about the small scale mining, we have both underground and then the surface. So this is how some of them get here, the deposits, the ore deposit, by going down into the earth or just having it on the surface based on where you want your ore. So after you acquire the ore, that is in terms of the mining aspect, you have to reduce the sizes from the boulders, you reduce it. So in Ghana, we normally use the Dix mill or the hammer mill, and this helps us to get the finer grains of the material. Then we do slurrying. In Ghana, slurrying is a way of washing the gold to get the concentrate. So in the large scale mine, they'll use something like the Nelson concentrator or the shaking table. But in small scale mining in Ghana, we have a technique called the slurrying where we use the slurry board. And for you to get 100% recovery or even 80% recovery, there should be an angle of inclination with the board to where you are, as you can see the miners doing on the screen as I'm sharing. So we've been talking about small scale mining, and the major problem we are having is mercury. I'm part of a team that is Professor Richard Amankwa and Madame Georgette with Madame Amina and all my big women on the platform. We are working on mercury-free processes. Initially, this was how it was being done. When they get the concentrate from the picture one, they will just add the mercury to it, rub with their bare hands, and then get the sponge gold before they smelt to get the amalgam, then they smelt to get the sponge gold. So this is what is going on in Ghana. And we are trying to curb this because we know how dangerous mercury is to the human system, and then how it affects us and even those around us. So we came up with an alternative way, number one, which is the safer amalgamation process. That is, instead of the miner using their bare hands to touch the mercury and the ore, looking at the picture one, what we have in the beaker is the mercury. And then what we have in the sample bags are the concentrates. When I say concentrates, I mean the sand that contains the gold after you do your gravity separation. So we are using the local means by just pouring it in a bottle, making a slurry out of the concentrate and adding your mercury, as you can see the professor doing with the spoon. He just scooped it out into it. Then you cover it, you shake it up. So instead of the normal method where you would use your fingers, now it is in a bottle where you don't get into contact with the mercury. At least this is better if you don't have an alternative way of dealing with mercury. Moving forward, we have come up with retorts, or these are lanterns that are also used in helping us in burning the amalgam, because when you get the amalgam, even the fumes in burning the amalgam to get the sponge gold is extremely toxic to the human system. Therefore, UMAT, we developed these resort camp, and then we are still experimenting them. The good news is that one of them works, the glass one. Initially, we did the opaque one, which was working, but you know, small scale miners are not educated. Most of them are illiterate, and they came with the argument that they want to see the gold because this is opaque. They want to see what is happening in the container. So we had to develop our process, and then now we made the glass lantern retort, which at least you can see the amalgam, so you can see the changes that goes on when you are burning. And in this case, the fumes don't get into the atmosphere. Rather, it gets collected in the small container on top of the tube of the lantern retort. So it gets condensed. So in this case, we are both safe, both the miner and the environment is safe in terms of using the retort. Then we come to the almighty direct smelting, which is the simplest, and then we are hoping that most small-scale miners will patronize this. But then with the direct smelting, you have to have an expert to help you know which type of ore you would use, whether the deposit you are using are sulfuric deposit or they are free milling gold. So normally for the flaxes in Ghana, for those who are practicing direct smelting, which is an alternative mercury-free process, we use soda ash and borax. So the picture I have beneath it is a tin of a tomato puree. It's the smallest tin. So that was what we used for the experiment. And most miners have adopted to this system. When I'm saying out of 30% of the miners in the southern parts of Ghana, around Takwa or Boise, they are trying to adapt to it. And we are pushing the agenda in the northern parts of Ghana also for them to use the direct smelting. So for the direct smelting, we use flaxes. When we talk, we have borax, silica, potassium nitride, and we have sodium carbonate. And all these flaxes play a major role in the direct smelting process. Okay, I don't know if I would have to take us through the flaxes, but I think that would be too technical, so I'll just move on from this side. So for the direct smelting process, which is the safest, and then to safe for both the miner and then the environment, and Ghana, we are looking at for using it, and not just in Ghana, but Africa and the world at large. You mix the charge. When I say charge, I mean the flaxes and the concentrate that you have, which is the black sand. You mix them up in a bowl, pour it in a crucible as we've done here, we've shown in the picture. Then you direct it to what we call the sikabuchia. Sikabuchia is a Ghanaian-made furnace, which was manufactured in the University of Mines and Technology. And this is a furnace that we use in smelting gold. This is how it looks like. It is one of the furnaces that you can get up to 1,300 degrees Celsius, and that is the required temperature to smelt gold. So at 1,200 degrees Celsius on this slide, you are able to melt all the flaxes. So by the time it gets to the 1,300, you have your gold in time. It doesn't take long to. So when you are done smelting, you have to pour it for some 30 minutes. So that is what happens when you are pouring the molten material. So you form a slag out of the direct smelting. So that is how, well, the first picture is the crucible with the charge in it. So you pour it in an iron mold. Because it's extremely hot, you have to be very careful. Then in about 30 minutes time, you pour it out of the mold, and then you get a picture like the slag here. Then you use a simple hammer to just hit it, and then you have your gold pearl, as I have in my palm in the picture I have in the presentation. So for the direct smelting is the easiest way, and we hope miners would adapt to it instead of using the mercury, which is not good for the health and the health of everybody. Moving forward, I would wish we would all reason together and then also embrace safer ways of handling mercury, knowing how it is, and even looking at the Minamata Convention that other countries are pushing, of which Ghana is part. We would also adapt alternative ways and start using them. And we have to be ready for the period when mercury will be readily available, because we are moving towards the Minamata Convention, and we all want an eco-friendly environment and a more efficient gold extraction system. So this is a brief of my presentation. I'm really sorry about the network hiccups. Thank you.
Can I just ask Hamdiya a brief question about the smelting, the direct smelting?
Okay.
Yeah, Hamdiya, I'm looking at the crucibles, the where you are pouring the first gold into the mold. Now, some of us are using nitric acid. My question is that, is it still necessary for us? Because I haven't seen you with the method to use the nitric acid that I have been using. And I was made to understand that the acid helps in cooling down the temperature, number one, and also it helps in getting out some of the impurities, such as the remaining slags and metallic objects in the gold. Is that true, or I don't need to use the nitric acid at all?
Okay. So for gold, the chemistry of gold is diverse. Okay, we can use nitric acid. You can use it based on where you are coming from, if it's the leaching aspect or you want to go into the direct smelting. But for what I know, for direct smelting, the fluxes you need are just borax, silica, potassium nitrate, or the sodium carbonate if you want to go through the direct smelting processes. So in this case, you're going to apply heat to it.
Yeah, no,
We
yeah, I
have
understand. Yeah, I understand that aspect. But where, you know, my question is coming from is after you do the direct smelting, I realized that you pour straight into the mold. And for me,
okay.
from the mold
Okay.
is where I pick the very hot gold, which is still about 1,000 degrees, and I go straight into nitric acid, which is also
Okay, so
very
I get your
dangerous.
question now. Yes, please.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
so for your point, you're looking at Aquaria, that is nitric acid and sulfate acid, that is hydrochloric acid and nitric acid. That's how you're supposed to mix them. This is being practiced because we don't want to have impurities in the gold.
Yeah,
So the
okay.
method you're talking about is the Aquaria method, of which after you acquire the gold pearl, like in the fourth picture, you digest it in the nitric acid or you clean it further in the nitric acid, if I'm
Okay.
right. You can go with that. You can go
Okay.
with that method, but I don't know how you did your direct smelting process. Normally, when we do the gold, even in the large scale mine, they don't produce 100% gold. They always have impurities of copper, silver, and a whole lot of other tiny. So what you are doing is also right. You can also further purify your gold with that. But with this method, you can still keep your gold pearl and then sell it. Unless you have the gold precision machine, which can measure the amount of gold, maybe 23 carats, 24 carats, 18 carats, and based on the amount of other impurities that are in. But your method also works because it helps make the gold more purified. Thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question, Amina. If anyone else has any questions in which they would like to ask, kindly share your name and the country that you're from before you ask the question. So we'll be able to have a bit of background and better understand the context in which you might be asking from. So does anyone else have any questions for Amina? Sorry, not Amina, Dia. I have one question myself. One of the biggest challenges in which we face in Guyana is buy-in from the miners with regards to using new mining techniques and using new mining technology. With regards to the direct smelting methods that you have shown us today, what has the response been like from the mining community? Are they willing to try, are they open to trying new techniques? And if so, did you have to facilitate any awareness sessions or education sessions before moving into this project?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Actually, some of the miners embrace it whenever we bring it up. because they know how dangerous mercury is, and they didn't know of an alternative means of extracting the gold aside the mercury. And then bringing this out, the awareness, as you rightly said, that is what we are trying to do. Recently, Women in Mining had one in Tinga, the upper part of Ghana, and it was sponsored by World Bank and some other agencies. So this was done in the northern part of Ghana, where we demonstrated it to the women who are into small scale mining, and they really embraced it. But it still comes to the point of helping them facilitate this new knowledge that they have, because it's easier to get mercury on the market because it's something they are using every day. So they can just walk to the next shop and they can get mercury to buy, even though it's very toxic. But in the mining company, mining towns, it's very easy to acquire. But then for the direct smelting, the fluxes and all of that, they need education on it. So we need to keep teaching the small scale miners to do, because anywhere that we've been to Bole, we've been to Tinga, that is Women in Mining. Whenever we talk about direct smelting, they embrace it 100%. So we need to create awareness of this so that they would start practicing it and it would help them.
My hand is up. My hand is up.
Yeah. Yes, Gloria, you can go straight ahead.
All right. Dia, I want to ask, do we have plans of scaling up to the southern part?
Please come again.
Do we have plans of scaling up to the southern parts?
Yes, actually, we started this whole process in the southern part of Ghana, in Takwa.
Okay.
We started in Takwa and a bit of Bondi, Prestia.
Okay.
So we are looking at that side, but then we moved straight to the north because there was a UN project at Talensi, and Professor Richard Amankwa, now the VC of UMAT, was the team lead for that project. So that was how come we got to Talensi in the northern part of Ghana. And then good for Women in Mining, we also won a grant and we went to Tinga to also create the awareness there. So we are trying to spread throughout Ghana, but we would need funding for this, and we need support of everybody to be on board for this.
Yeah, because I think in the Ashanti region, I don't think they are aware of all this. So in the future, when we get some funding, we should include them.
Okay, thank you.
My hand is up too. I'm in here again.
Okay.
Amina, you can go ahead.
Dear, sorry for bothering you tonight.
Oh no, please.
Right. I'm still on the processing because I'm very much interested in it, and I'm looking at the final gold that you have in your palm. Going back again, I was told that once I pour my gold into the mold, sometimes depending on which environment you are in, whether you are in a closed environment or you are outside and you are pouring the gold, it sometimes sucks air. And one of the things that I learned quickly was that if I didn't pound the gold with a very big hammer, about 3-kilo hammer that I was using on my own, to pound the gold into a thin gold, like if I take 1 kilo gold and I have to pound it to make it flat, I often find that it brings down the carat value. But the days that I will not be lazy and I will really give it a bash, because I have all the facilities in checking the carat values, the impurities and everything, I would realize that my carat value will go up to about 23.7, 23.8 carats in the gold. Now, is it necessary for me to be going through such difficult, because it was such a very tiring exercise for me, but nonetheless, I had to do it because I needed a carat value in the gold. So I want to know, just by pouring the gold into a bar or whatever, do I still need to go through this process in pounding it like I do, or I should just leave it? Hello? Hello, Dia.
I think we may have lost Dia because I'm looking in the participants list and I can no longer find her.
Okay.
So is there anyone else that may be able to provide a response to Amina from WIM Ghana?
Eureka, I think that the best person to answer is Dia, and probably Amina herself. She knows the answer. Amina herself, she knows that. But I think she's doing this to get us to all understand a little more as well.
Right,
but if Dia, yes, if Dia is not here, I also wanted Amina to speak a little more about the government's plans. Apparently, the government is bringing in some units, very expensive, I think. Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you, Madam President. The unit that actually on Saturday, just this past Saturday, it was commissioned at Tinga. The minister went to Tinga to commission it for the small scale miners. It is called a mercury-free plant. It's supposed to crush meal and concentrate for the miners. And it is a very interesting plant, and it's costing about 50,000 US dollars, but Ghana government is stepping in to give it to us as a form of high purchase. It's payable over 3 years, and you make an initial deposit of 10,000 US dollars. Then you pay the rest over 3 years. And this plant is mainly used in the rock mining. They haven't provided any for the alluvial mining yet. And I made an inquiry. Yeah, I made an inquiry at the Minerals Commission as to why the alluvial miners were not getting any. And the explanation I got was that one, the processing of the rock is more tedious and difficult than the alluvial mining. The alluvial mining is a straightforward mining process. So they thought of tackling the rock miners first before the alluvial miners. But the acting CEO did promise that in 3 months' time, they were going to bring more plants that will cater for everyone. But currently, what the alluvial miners themselves are doing is that instead of using something that they were calling basin, it was mainly manufactured by the Chinese. Very simple technique. I have never used it because I never liked it. Now they themselves are adapting to the proper processing plant, which is the trommel, a wash plant, a rotated wash plant. They are trying to use that technique in recovering their gold. And once they get it, they do the sluicing as Hamdiya had explained to us, and then go straight to the direct smelting process. Yes, indeed, I had an answer to what I was asking Dia, but I wanted her to explain it in more technical or more detailed things.
Dia actually joined us again.
Right. Dia.
Yeah, hello.
I had asked a question while you were offline. Yeah. I was actually looking at your gold bar in your palm, and I was wondering because in your presentation, I didn't hear you talk about pounding the gold to get the air out and actually improving upon.
Okay.
Right. but Madame Georgette
Okay. No,
kind
oh, okay,
of,
it's been answered already.
no, it wasn't answered already. Yeah, but why I asked that question was because I wanted to help our other colleagues, maybe who do not know that there's a procedure like that, in terms of trying to recover, because in gold production, every single peso counts. Yeah, whatever you can maximize your profit or do to maximize your profit or get more money will go a long way to help. And I was asking you a question that from my, obviously my bars are much bigger than what you had in your palm. And I was explaining that once I pour into my mold and I get about half a kilo bar or 1 kilo bar gold, I go ahead with the hammer, which was about 3 kilos hammer in weight, and I give it a good bash, like I really knock it hard and get it into flattened gold. And in doing so, I found out that I recovered more purity, or the carat value goes higher. So I asked Mr. AEC, he's a mining engineer. In fact, he was one of the earlier Minerals Commission officers in Dunkwao, as to why I should do that. And his explanation was that depending on how I'm pouring the gold into the mold, sometimes it traps air into the gold. And if I didn't beat it that way to get there, he even gave me a local name that in those days, in the 80s, the miners used to call it. If I put it in the scale and do all the water separation and everything to get the purity, record my purity, I found out that my purity was low. But the day that I will really beat it hard into getting all the air out, I could recover up to about 10, 15 carats more than as to if I didn't do with the same area of gold, because I know that sometimes, depending on which area I'm mining, the carat fluctuates. It goes up and down. Sometimes I get 23, sometimes I get 22, depending on the ore I'm processing. So I wanted to ask you, what is the scientific explanation behind this bashing? And if it is relevant into helping other women, improving upon the sale of their gold, and if we can use that technique as well. I mean, it's not a chemical-based technique. It's just hammer and strength. Hello, dear. We lost dear again.
Not to worry, Amina. I think she is here. Just let me check once more. Yes, she's here. Dia, your mic isn't connected for some reason. So you may want to just click on the microphone tab to the bottom of the screen and ensure that your mic is connected.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, dear.
Okay, so I heard what Dr. Amina Tahir was talking about with respect to the gold pro. Actually, it's a bit technical, and I was just talking about how to get the gold pro. In Ghana, we sell the gold in blades and at times based on the kilo. So normally you have to hammer it. Okay, and she explained why you have to hammer it. But then some of the small scale miners don't go through the Aquaria procedure. That is, they don't, after hammering, they don't treat it again with nitric acid and hydrochloric acid. It's using a ratio of 1:1. And that helps to remove further impurities from the gold that you've acquired. That is a metallic gold. And so you have to hammer it, and then if you want to use it, you want to purchase, you want to sell something, then you have to go through that way. So Madam Amina, thank you very much for prompting me there.
Dia, I have another question as well. Oftentimes, when proposing a solution, we have two major questions asked by our miners. One is based on the cost as well as the processing time. So comparing the utilization of your direct smelting method to the process using mercury, could you kindly share a bit on what the difference in cost as well as the difference in the processing time will be?
Okay. So in terms of cost analysis, I don't really have into details the cost analysis. Okay, first of all, because it's based on the flaxes that we'll be using. Okay, so there are companies in Ghana that sell flaxes, and women in mining, Ghana, we are trying to liaise with some of these companies like African to see if we can get a good slot to get a discount price for the flaxes. So I have not been able to finalize on those ones. So the only ones that I've been using are the lab flaxes. And the flaxes we use, they are not very expensive. And you don't need a lot before you get your gold, just a little, you'll be able to get it. And then for amalgamation, when you use the mercury, you now have to, if you're going through the native way, that is using your bare hands, you have to keep rubbing against it until it gets a good contact. It takes time. And also when you are bending the amalgam to produce the sponge gold, some people just go to the bush and do that for about, let me say, 24 hours. People keep long because they want to burn all the mercury out of it. And when you get the sponge gold, some decide to sell the sponge gold as it is. Others too use borax to smelt the sponge gold to get the metallic gold. And that also takes time. So even in terms of time, the direct smelting is simpler and then better. And in terms of pollution, without looking at even the cost, the direct smelting is way better, because if you use mercury, there are chances that in 5 years to come, you are going to start having problems. If you're a woman, you have issues with your womb. If you're a man, you have issues, like it's a lot of problems in terms of our health wise. So that is what I would say, comparing these two. But economically, direct smelting is, to me, direct smelting is safer and better, because at times the process might be safer, but then it will be slightly expensive. But if you compare it to the future, where you would be going to the hospital trying to get kidney or lung transplant and all of that, I would still vote for the direct smelting. Yes.
From Alandia, Nadishka, Ms. Watson, do you guys have any questions before we go back to Amina? Amina, you want to go ahead in the meantime?
Right, okay. I think, Eureka, from your question and from the explanation Hamdiya gave with regards to the cost, I think the arrest method is much, much better, because I've had the opportunity to do both. And as we speak now, about 1.5 liter of 1.5 liter of mercury is a little over $1,000 in terms of monitoring. Now, compared to that smelter that Hamdiya had shown in the picture, I know that a gentleman was selling it here for about 3,000 Ghana cedis, which is about $500. Now, it's not one of, you can use it for many, many years to come. So if you have such smelter and you are using it, all you need to do is to get your borax and your flax and things which cost almost nothing as compared to the mercury. And with the mercury, the way they treat it, is not everybody who has the retorts to recover their mercury. Like Hamdiya was explaining, they go into the bush and they burn it out. And once you burn it out, you cannot recover it. So imagine if you are producing like half a kilo of gold a week, you require not less than 7.5 mil of mercury to process that amount of gold weekly. Now, and if you have to continue burning it out, that's like in a month or half a month, that's about $1,000 you are just burning out every month, as compared to saving that same amount of money in buying the smelter and using it for many, many years to come. So I think the direct smelting has a lot of advantages as compared to the mercury usage, and not to talk about the health issues that comes along with the mercury, the handling of the mercury and the other chemicals. So that's what I just wanted to add.
Thanks a lot for mentioning that, Amina, because while we're estimating the cost of the process as well as the cost of production, it is difficult to assign a cost to your health, the standard of living in which you are able to afford yourself, as well as the risk of potentially not even being able to work due to your health situation. So definitely those are costs in which will have to be factored in, but it's difficult to assign an amount to. From the persons joining us from Guyana as well as from Suriname, do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask at this time? I know.
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Agatha. For Alandi and Miss Watson from Guyana, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? I know Nadishka messaged in the chat and said that she doesn't have any questions.
No, I was just listening and taking in what was being said for now, Eureka. Thank you.
Alandi, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask or areas that you need clarity on? She also messaged and said that she doesn't have any questions. So I think between Rosemary, Amina, and Dia, you have provided all of the clarity necessary, and the participants do not have any further questions at this time. Is there, with regards to the execution of your project, were there any key challenges that you believe will be lessons that can be utilized by other mining organizations that may wish to replicate your study?
I think that some of the issues were mainly dealing with, I don't know whether Bashiratu, whether Bash is here, but Bash was handling a lot of the social issues of the project. Bash, are you there? You know, things like
I'm here.
Yes, I see.
Yes.
Bash is here in the participants.
Yes. Yes, Bash, can you speak a bit about your work on the project, the social aspects? Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone from Ghana. I hope I'm able to speak your technical language too, because that's not my area. But if I'm not able, please just bear with me. So I think from the onset, from the first visit that we embarked on, when we did some of the needs assessment to be able to develop the activity for them, after our engagement with some of the stakeholders within the sector virtually, we got some few issues that they felt we should focus on, even with the social aspect. And then interestingly, like what the focus on safety and health issues should be, for instance. And then in our engagement, we really did not have
people coming out with some of the social issues that their expectations might be that we will be facing, you know. So after our interactions, we noticed that some of the social included, I mean, there's still this masculinity around who should be a minor, who should do what. So there are strict rules regarding the work that women are expected to do at the mine site and also within the community, which affect even people who want to go beyond the comfort of the zone that has been guarded for women. And also issues around sexual and gender-based violence. But for that one, they were not, you know, when people don't understand issues, they will say that they don't have the problems. But when you do some sort of explanation to give them the guidelines and educate them, then they start telling you some of the key issues that they are facing with regards to that. So some of it are institutional, and most of it are also things that government has to do. Like if someone is raped, for instance, where do you report to? They didn't have knowledge about that, and the government institutions to do that is farther away from the community that they find themselves. Then there are a couple of safety and health issues too. And that we try to use body mapping, you know, after doing the work for some time, Dia and Rosemary worked with them. And part of the work Dia and Rosemary did with them, for instance, also responded to some of the safety issues that they might be having with the bending, you know, because they were positioning the thing so lower to an extent that they'll have to bend a little more. But then what Rosemary and Dia for them to do responded partly to some of the challenges. So from the body mapping exercises, we were able to determine that they had a lot of issues with their neck, their back, you know, their knee, and also their scalp because they stand a lot, the way they carry things on their heads, and you know what sort of engagement and the protective equipment, they didn't have any. So some of them actually mentioned that WIM is the first organization to give them any protective equipment like the go-go, even themselves, whilst on the way and also coming back, you know, or when you find yourself in the midst of people you are uncomfortable with, what triggers should you be looking out for? And what are the signs if there are issues with sexual and gender-based violence as well? Then there are issues with unpaid care work, which reduces the capability of women and the amount of time they are able to spend doing their own work to get to be productive. Because part of our meetings, we had some challenges where people want to close at a particular time so that they can go back to the market to buy food stuff and go back home to go and cook and all of that, you know. And then we had this, they are also very patriarchal. So even in doing things, you still find the men around them, trying to guard the space and the power that they have to make sure that what we are teaching them is not going to threaten their position in the community and amongst the women. So they'll be standing all around the place. And myself and Sarah had a discussion when on our very first visit, we were supposed to provide them with lunch or snack. We couldn't, so we gave them the money. And right in front of us, they went with the money to the guys, you know, to give them the money, that this is the money we gave them. And myself and Sarah were surprised. So we did understand that it's a process that we have to go through to reorient them and also change some of their mindset about some of the things. And also, one of the issues with the patriarchal nature of the society was also the fact that most of the men felt we should have given them the items we were giving to the women so that they will be the ones to do the distribution, which was very unfortunate because we have come there to do work with them for some time. They are not children, you know, but they're with the expectation that we leave everything with them, we go our way, and then they do the distribution on our behalf, which we didn't also agree to. So those are some of the, and then the issue about power relations, you know, who owns power? And you know, in the value chain of gold business, there are stages. So the first stage is done by the men. The last stage is also mostly men, and that deals with a lot of money. So it is men there. And then who is giving them the money? The sponsors, for instance, and what sort of contracts they were going on with the women also counted. And we're trying to find out if some of them were harassing the women in the process or trying to engage with them in any way that amounted to quid pro quo, which some of them said yes, others said no, it was strictly transactional. So it had nothing to do with sex or anything, or even any form of harassment in that space. And then also the issue about mercury, for instance, they did tell us when we were doing the safety and health and telling them about the dangers of mercury and how it could even affect their reproductive health, for instance, how it could affect their women, all of that. They told us that there was no alternative before Dia and Rosemary took them through the other one. But then the sponsors, when they give them, they set them up, they are the ones who also give them the mercury. You know, so it's like a form of another support, even though they also know the dangers of it. And the implication of keeping the mercury at home, where one might have children, and how they were using it. You know, the things that utensils and the basins where you wash your clothes or you wash dishes inside, then you use them in the house, there's mercury all over, and the dangers to children, if someone is breastfeeding and all of that also counted. So those are a few of the things that we noticed and tried to support them to work on. And then we supported them to establish their own cooperative, which thankfully is growing very well now. Thank you. Georgette, I hope I captured enough.
Thank
So the
you.
team members,
Thank
if I
you.
left out anything, you can add.
I
But
think you have done justice. Thank you.
there are a few things in which I think we would be able to share with your team. The Guyana Women Minors Organization has developed brochures as well as videos on violence against women. Last year, we actually worked with survivors of domestic violence as well as in intimate partner violence, and they developed videos based on their own stories, what they have experienced, what caused them to leave, why counseling is important. So they identified information in which they wish they had heard while they were going through that situation, and we were able to have those videos made. We're currently in the process of distributing them, and we can share all of them with you to be utilized as materials for you to use in the field if you're going to be doing awareness. I know you mentioned that some persons may not report certain activities because they may not know how to define it. And previously, that was part of the challenge in the work in which we do in Guyana, that we may be able to provide you with support in. With regards to the brochures that we have developed, it outlines not only the definition, the types of the different forms of abuse, as well as examples. Because oftentimes you hear what it is, but if there isn't an example that specifically speaks to your situation, then you may feel as though, well, that doesn't apply to you because the definition doesn't apply to you. But a form of that type of abuse or sexual assault, etc., may apply to you. That's why we have included the types, and we've also included red flags, because oftentimes it doesn't jump from beginning to extreme. There are different situations, different actions that are indicators that social issues or an issue is going to develop here that may be useful for you to share. So we can send all of that information to you via email. I know you mentioned persons not being aware of where they can get help if they are raped or if they are assaulted. So we have developed signs and we've been able to get permission from the government to install them in police stations and hospitals that outline the names of all of the NGOs, the types of services that they provide, as well as their numbers. So if something did happen to you and you go to report it to the police station or you go to report it to the hospital, those signs are there. We can also share who were our donors to develop those materials with, and see if there is a local office within your region or within your country that might be interested in replicating that with you. Because oftentimes we are doing very similar things, and sharing what we have already done is useful in you moving forward with your own project or moving forward with your own initiatives. Because at the end of the day, irrespective of which country we fall in, we are still working on enhancing the lives of women in the mining industry and increasing this available services for women in mining. There is a global initiative by the name of Spotlight that has been able to provide support for emergency travel, emergency shelter, evacuations, food, as well as hygiene supplies for victims of gender-based violence. So it might be useful for Bash or any member of your team to check in on what support are they providing to Ghana, because it's a UN initiative sponsored by the EU, and I think the Norwegian government, can't recall the third donor correctly. But it is a global initiative that I'm sure will apply to Ghana, and they are layers of support that will be available. They are now wrapping up their baseline work, and I know that they have a new project, a new allocation of resources that's supposed to start from January. So it might be useful for you guys to connect with your local UNFPA and be able to connect with them and share with them what you're doing there. If you would like for us to share our project documents or our project budget, we are open to sharing that with you, because at the end of the day, before you have to go and write everything from scratch, it's useful to see what has already been approved, what are the types of activities they're willing to do, what are the type of expenses you may be able to incorporate, so that you're able to efficiently and effectively execute your project. I know I'd met Charjette briefly before. We've never really seen each other. It's just been on LinkedIn. And with all of the women in mining organizations, however we are able to provide support, and the same for Agatha and Suriname, just let us know and we'll be able to start from there. Because outside of mercury and mining, outside of mining, we also have to address the fact that there are a number of social issues that negatively impact women within the mining industry. I'm sorry to have an entire 5 minutes talk.
That's fine.
Thank you so much. That is very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So Eureka, I will connect with Bash with you, and then we'll take it from there.
Definitely. And thank you so much. I don't know if
He's
anyone else
heading
has.
our social issues. So
Yes. And if you guys would like our social services unit to meet with Bash on how they got formulated, as well as their organizational chart within that subcommittee, we can also arrange for that to be done. Because once you start to address the social issues, oftentimes you find that it's a lot of work. Outside of all of the things in which I had mentioned, does anyone else have any questions in closing for Dia or Rosemary? I saw one comment in the messages from Nadishka. She appreciates the mentions of the social issues as well that women in mining face, and she's very happy that we are able to assist and share information with the team. from our end to all of the members of WIM Ghana that are joining us this evening, as well as Rosemary, Dia, and Amina that have led the presentation. We are appreciative of the time, especially it's after 9 p.m. currently in Ghana. So I'm trying as best as possible to ensure that you still have time with your families before the night concludes. Thank you so much for taking the time to share information with us. And the same way, we would really appreciate learning more about the alternatives in which you're currently introducing, as that is an area in which we will have to support our members to transition out of the use of mercury in mining. We are currently in the process of supporting the Ministry of Natural Resources to finalize the Minamata National Action Plan. And we're hoping soon after the activities outlined in that plan will be realized for Guyana. And we trust that as we continue to develop in our respective countries, we remain connected as well as open to sharing information and enhancing the services in which we provide to our members respectively, as well as the knowledge in which we share with our region, as not only Guyana, but Suriname and other countries are also making adequate steps, as well as putting measures in place to reduce mercury use in mining, as well as to support miners during that transition process. Yes, Amina?
Yeah, hi. I know. I'm sorry to ask this question late, but I was waiting for you to finish because your submission was very interesting and all the assistance you played to give to women in mining Ghana. Now, Eureka, I want to know how simple it is for women in Guyana to process their mining licenses. I know that you and I have talked about it in France some time ago, but I just want, for the sake of the other members who did not know, to know, because currently, Minerals Commission in Ghana is trying to develop an online application system for people to apply online so that it will shorten the length of the time that we process our documents. And for me, one of the things that I've been against is that it's like rural women are being left out when you look at the processing regime. Even while it's still a paper-based process, rural women are not able to catch up, let alone going online. That is so difficult for illiterate women and rural women to get involved in the. Now, do you have any organization, and if you can share that with women in mining Ghana, so that we can also adapt it, you know, in terms of assisting some of these women as to how to go about in processing their documents, in getting their licenses, because I know that Rosemary's presentation talked about the processing of the licenses and how people often encroach on large-scale minings and how the illegalities are coming about. And these are some of the issues that are bringing about all these issues. So I would like you, if you have it, or in Suriname or any of your side of the world, because I know, there will be some organizations that can help in terms of how to go about in processing the documents, and if we can also adopt the same methods in Ghana here as well.
Definitely. So for us in Guyana, with regards to acquiring land, that is done through by way of application to the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, which is our regulatory agency. If it's an area that is within the closed area committee that comes under the Ministry of Natural Resources, then an application or a letter sent directly to them requesting their permission for you to acquire the land and outlining specifically where the land is, the coordinates for it, what is the situation, because that isn't land that is openly available to the public. It is up to the committee's decision as to whether or not it will be applied to you. It will be given to you, sorry. The major challenge in which we have found that our women face, because we have outside of the general applications, we have land distribution by way of lottery and land distribution by way of auction. Before, I think about the last two lotteries, they actually went into the mining districts and performed the lotteries there. Whereas before, all of that was done in the capital. How we are able to support our members to participate, we have regional representatives as well as area representatives. So for the larger regions like Region 7, we have a representative in Bartica, in Isano, as well as in Imbamadai. So you look at where people can get to via land. So if I need to take a boat or an aircraft to get to you, then you're creating a barrier to access your services and a barrier to access support, because you don't want affordability to be a challenge in your members applying for land. So all of the members are, one, aware, they elect their regional representatives during our elections process, because you want to ensure that your regional representative is someone that the community is comfortable working with. All of us know if it's somebody that they're not comfortable working with, you will have an area representative and nobody will be going there for support, which will defeat the process of having that person in place. So take, for instance, we had a lottery earlier this month. Our organization is a part of the board of directors for our regulatory agency. So we're aware of when the lottery will be, what they have the application forms, and send it out to our regional representatives. So having them submitted by that, by way of one of our projects, we have hired a media team, because outside of the organization,
Excuse me, Eureka, could you maybe stop your video? Because it's getting, your connection is very unstable. So if you could stop your video, it might be better. Eureka, your connection is very bad. It's so good to know.
All of our members and all of our executives are
Thank you everyone for your patience. Obviously, Eureka's having a bad connection, just as we really would love to be hearing her, but it's gone very nicely up to now. Eureka, are you with us still? She seems like she might have dropped off. I'm just looking. Hello everyone, I'm Linda, in case you just here for the bit of support. It's been a fabulous discussion. I'm just blown away. I love it. We just hang on a couple. It's probably close to actually closing, but just hopefully Eureka will come back to us. Are there any other comments or questions from anyone else across the floor? Okay. Bash, I was very interested in what you were saying about body mapping and learning, improving health and safety for women, and also the dynamics of gender relations on the ASM fields. It's my own area of PhD research. I did my research in Madagascar, and I found that I don't know if it's the same in your areas, but I found that women got themselves what they called sapphire marriages. They were a kind of temporary hooking up with a miner that would enable them to access the mineral. But as soon as there was something found, they were off to their first wife or whatever. So it left women in a very, very vulnerable position. So interested to find out if that's the same in Ghana and in the Caribbean.
I think that we had similar issues that during some of the discussions where we had some of the gentlemen who were in charge of the mining association having 2-3 wives, and they do marry more when they hit very high on cash as well. Then I think one very important thing that also came out was the fact that, some of the men made comments about we should speak to the women to be respectful. When they make small money, they don't respect their husbands, and they are not checking themselves, because here you are making money and messing around, flirting around, marrying and giving birth, but you are here interested in the way another person who is a woman, because of the power relations, behave when she has some money. Then there was this issue also about religion, which is also very deep-rooted, and the biases of religion are also against women, obviously. So in one of our stakeholder consultation, we had a man who got up, took the mic from us and was bold enough to say that no sane Muslim man will watch the wife go to the mining site to go and work. In effect, trying to say it was not just even about mining, but it's about a woman working. So we took him on, and the first point I made was that I said that I'm also a Muslim woman, and that is not where I'm from, but I've traveled all the way from Accra to Bole through to Kinga to come and work for days. And I'm married, I'm Muslim. My husband is a practical Muslim too. So he had no case. And this generated into a lot of interesting discussion. And the uniqueness of the work that WIM did was also involving other female-led, female-owned civil society organizations around the area who have been doing some work in agriculture, in other areas as well, some of them were around. So some of them also took an interest in that particular case and was also responding to the issue about religion and the fact that a Muslim man will not allow the wife to go to the site to work and all of that. Then shockingly, one of the shocker for us was that the woman who is supposed to be in charge of leading the emancipation of women in the area from the Department of Gender was actually an enabler, because the comments she made about women making money, and supporting the men against the women, putting the women in a more vulnerable position was very sad in the midst of the men and the women who were trying very hard to be recognized, to be economically independent, to be part of the players in the labor market and all of that. They're already struggling to find their feet and making comments such as this. So after everything, I actually reached out to the regional director in the regional office, and I had a lengthy conversation with her about the comments the lady make and how they themselves are supposed to be up and doing. Gender is not, we are not in it as a career just because there's money, but we are in it to change the lives of people. So if you can't, then you leave the space for people who are more committed and are more willing to do justice to that. So I'm very sure that my team will also be very happy to share more insights about the social issues and how we can also work together around that. Then the body mapping exercises, Maybe later we could share some of the pictures, because we do have some of the pictures of the drawings and the markings that we have on the bodies, as well. Then we try to also take them through not an alternative source, because we don't want them to leave mining, but something that could help them to get an extra income. So we taught them how to do liquid soap. And liquid soap, they could use it on their own in the home, and it could save them some money. They could also do it on a large scale and start selling as a cooperative as well. So we would also be very happy to share some of the materials. And before I dropped off, I would also like to say that because of the nature of the area we were working in, not everyone understood English. So not all of them understand, they cannot write, they cannot even read. So we mostly have to use a translator. So most of the work we did, where we used as much as possible pictorials, so that they could easily use the pictures to understand and identify with whatever was there, and then ask questions with the pictures and other things as well. So part of the recommendations was how we can make all these big laws and legislations we have around domestic violence in the Criminal Offences Act, and then the Constitution and all of that readable. So even if it's in pictures, how do we let them understand that they are provided and protected for according to these laws and that laws and all of that as well? Yeah. So if our report is published, I'm sure Georgette and the team will be happy to share more about all those things. But we have pictures of some of the exercises that we made them do, and then also went through as well.
Hi, Bash. I fell off the call for a few seconds after trying to get Dia on stably for the entire evening. It happened to me as well, so I could fully understand how she felt. It seems as though we're doing a lot of the same things across continents, because with regards to the issues in which women face in being respected within the industry, we were able to acquire support to have a 1 year long video and newspaper series on women in mining. So we invited women from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different mining districts to sit with journalists and share how they ended up coming into the mining industry, what their challenges and experience has been like, as well as how they were able to grow their businesses and change their lives through mining. Oftentimes, when you look at the image of success within different industries, people skip over mining in general, and they also skip over women in mining. It's as though the image of success is someone who has a very high office building and a suit and a tie sitting in AC, without looking at the fact that even, I don't know for Ghana, but for Guyana, before our oil and gas industry moved into production, mining was the highest contributor to our GDP. So ensuring that outside of just the male understanding of what it means to be a woman in mining, as well as general public's understanding of what it's like to be a woman in mining, that level of awareness is increased, because people are, it sounds as though people are acting based on stereotypes and not based on facts, especially when you're going to factor in religion or factor in other key elements. At the end of the day, you still have the right to mine, you still have the right to earn a living however you see fit. That doesn't limit you to choosing a particular profession. And I know you had mentioned the work in which you guys did with um, giving women alternative livelihoods. Alandia, who is on the call as well, we had organized from 2019 to about 2020. We had executed an alternative livelihoods project for women in mining. And instead of choosing one particular field, we provided them with the opportunity to acquire 9 different skills ranging from tourism, business management, computer literacy, poultry farming, livestock farming, hydroponics, aquaponics. We provided them with the opportunity to be exposed to the training, and then they decide what it is that they want to do, what resources do they have available. We were also able to support them to develop their business plans, their logos, their letterheads, contract drafts, etc., so that they can have an additional income. Because while mining is our, for most persons, your main source of income, you also want to ensure that we have alternatives, and we have been having this discussion for quite some time, and I know it's heading into 10 o'clock for you guys in Ghana. So in consideration of the time, we will connect after the meeting. Thank you all so much again for joining us and for being a part of the presentation today. I'm sure that everyone that has joined from Guyana as well as Suriname have been able to benefit from that knowledge in reducing mercury use in mining. And we look forward to our future engagements as we build collaborations across continents.